thank you for the candidates and all of you, especially for being here, because this is an important part of what we do in the United States, right? And this is like at the local level. You can't get much more local than this. So welcome. Olympia Downtown Alliance, as you know, our whole mission is to act as a catalyst for a vibrant, thriving downtown by supporting or being of service to businesses and property owners. Okay? And top 5 priorities, if you need to know, you guys should know this. There's a test later on. Advocate for downtown, amongst the city and the county and all that. Advocate for downtown. Support clean, safe, and welcoming environment in downtown. Improve the image of downtown. Support economic development downtown. And of course, as an organization, thrive and grow and involve as many people as possible. And our whole focus is on downtown. Tonight, we're here to understand better, right? Because you already know something about it. The positions of mayoral candidates, I can't say that word, Dontae Payne and David Ross, and on issues impacting downtown. So we're going to ask a series of questions, and they'll have some time to respond, and we'll tell you about that as we go along in the process. You'll also hear from Dani Madrone here. She's running unopposed. Ian Nguyen is also running unopposed for the council. Couldn't be here tonight, but at the end, Dani will have a few minutes to tell you a little about her position too. And then after the meeting, you could debate her. If you have to. Yeah. No, I guess you didn't sign up for that, did you? No. Yeah, you got plans? Yeah, no. All right. So the format tonight, they'll introduce themselves. We'll go through a series of questions. I'll tell you how many minutes they have to respond. And they'll honor the minutes because Todd, sitting in the front row, has these special signs, 30 seconds, time out. That's like they're going to be put in timeout if they don't honor that. I don't know about you, but I never vote for anybody that goes over time. So just so you guys know that, no pressure at all, but you just lose the vote right away if you go over time. And what'll happen is if you do go over time and you haven't shut up yet, I'll start growling and I'll get closer and closer to you until you do to be quiet. But I'm sure we won't have that problem because Todd's right here in front and they'll see him. And Todd's our executive director. If you have, I think, you all know Todd? Todd Cutts? Yeah, he shook his hand on the way into this. All right. Well, candidates, you get to introduce yourselves. And, you know, you have a little bit of time, about 1 minute to introduce yourselves, open remarks. And we're just going to go back and forth throughout the night, just randomly back and forth. Somebody starts first, the other one goes second, and try to be fair through the whole evening. So in this case, David, why don't you introduce yourself? You have a minute to do so.
Thank you. I am a lifelong resident of Olympia. I'm not going to bore you with my 3-minute elevator speech or try to pack it into 1 minute. I will tell you that I date back to when places like the Rainbow and Smithfield Cafe and positively 4th Street dotted Olympia, when Olympia never really quite turned the corner from its industrial age around into the 21st century, in the information age and beyond. I'm someone that I went to Evergreen. I've gone all over the country making documentary films and doing all kinds of stuff. But for about 10 years, I did social services and psychiatric social work and substance abuse treatment here in Olympia. For 5 years, I was the homeless outreach case manager for Thurston Mason counties. I got involved in local politics, not for sort of self-aggrandizement, but just to say, hey, wait a minute, we're not doing what we used to do that used to work. And without somebody who says, you know, the emperor has no clothes, I don't see us turning a corner toward any other positive outcomes without someone willing to say that.
Dontae.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Dontae Payne. I am a member of the Olympia City Council. I was elected in November of 2021. And since that time, I have worked on a number of issues, and I've been able to get my hands on just about everything that I said I wanted to work on when I ran for city council. That includes things like supporting more development of affordable housing, bringing body cameras to our police officers and in-car video systems, as well as supporting policies that are going to enhance our environmental protections for the climate. And really, the reason that I'm running for mayor is because I believe that our city needs stability and it needs leadership that believes in the city organization's mission to take us to the future. This is about looking forward. Yes, there were things about the city of Olympia that were great in its past, but we also need visionaries and somebody who believes that we can move forward in a way that incorporates all of the values that we have as a community. Thank you.
Todd didn't give him a warning that time. That was great. They didn't know what to do. You just, time out, 1 minute. No vote, sorry. Okay. We're going to go into a round of questions, and in this case, they'll have 3 minutes to respond to each of these questions. The first one's about vision. So get in your time machine, set the date for 2035. 2035. What does downtown look like? Articulate your vision for downtown and explain how you will work to ensure that vision becomes a reality. Dontae, you get to start on this question.
Yes, 2035. So actually, I see downtown Olympia thriving. I see that we have more residents downtown who can live here, people of all income levels. I see that we have improved our sidewalks and our roads downtown. Hopefully, we have gotten a handle on the presence of our homelessness community because we have housed the folks who are street dependent. And hopefully it means that we are doing our part to support our local businesses, that we see more types of businesses downtown that provide experiences that draw people in. And I would like to see just really more of a diverse community. And I would think that in 2035, that's exactly what we would see. As well as, really bringing more of a culturally rich Olympia that recognizes the growth that has come here from people of a variety of backgrounds and the businesses that will reflect that diversity as well. So I would like to see that in our downtown. It also means that I hope that we would have gotten a handle on the clean and safety aspects of what it means to be in our downtown. We're a regional hub. That means that we face a lot of challenges with our downtown. It is the county's downtown. But really, we don't face a lot of challenges that many other downtowns across the country are facing at this moment. We're not really so unique in a lot of the challenges that we have. But I would like to think that in 2035, we have addressed them substantially. Things like graffiti cleanup, making sure that we are doing our part to address the open use of drugs and things like that. And hopefully it means that we've redirected those folks to get the services that they need. At the same time that we are experiencing a community that has developed into something that is a much bigger and brighter and vibrant future. And that includes bringing in those who are our youth, who I believe need employment opportunities, and I believe that the city, downtown Olympia, could serve as a place where we see more of our youth engaged in our employment sector. And really, I would think that 2035, we would see much more use of public transit as well, and that we are meeting the goals of reducing our climate emissions, and that we're on track to do so. And hopefully, downtown can serve as a model in that regard.
Thank you, Dontae. David, you have the same question. Let's get in your time machine, 2035. What does downtown look like? What's that vision that you lay out, and how will you work towards that, make sure it's realized if you're elected?
Do I have a magic wand or just a bully pulpit? So that's only 10 years away from updating comprehensive plan. And to me, 2035 looks like we have one of the most welcoming entrances to our city, entrances to our state capitol. We've implemented the greening of Capitol Way, which has been sitting collecting dust on a shelf. We've resolved our community's differences about our port and our lake, although we don't have the direct decision-making power in all of those issues. But mostly, I see a downtown that is safe, clean, and welcoming, where people want to live, work, and play. I don't think that we can call ourselves environmental stewards when we endorse policies that lead to more suburban sprawl and less urban density, more traffic, more carbon emissions, drastically more expensive infrastructure maintenance as we spread out into our urban growth areas, instead of building up rather than out. So to me, we would have a housing density, and we might even have a sixth platform for ODA, which is encouraging and working with residents of downtown and representing them. There's a fledgling neighborhood association, but I think getting people to live downtown and live a walkable, bikeable lifestyle, which is hard to get Americans to do in general. It's hard to get Olympians to do in a rainy, cold climate, but we're lucky so far. We're living in an area with a massive inventory shortage for housing, so housing has gone up and it's filled up, and we've lucked out in that regard. But if we think we can build our way out of the challenges of downtown, if we think we can arrest our way out of the challenges of downtown, I think both of those are sort of extremes, and what I would like to see over the next 10 years is really the litmus test to me is that little park that's been closed for 5 years where the artesian well is. When that's reopened and it's an urban playground with benches where senior citizens and families with kids go down there to play, and seniors throw whatever they throw to pigeons and feed the seagulls and feel safe, and there's a diversity of people using our downtown rather than just the folks who feel safe going downtown, not the overwhelming majority who have kind of written off our downtown. That to me would be my vision, come to life. As a little gravy on top, I wouldn't mind seeing a trolley car that goes from downtown to the Capitol. But we're also going to see a drastically different state capitol campus. And as much as we try to integrate with that, we also need to plan for that, because the economic change of our campus and telecommuting and AI is going to drastically change the economic needs of our community.
Did you give these guys a round of applause? I forgot to say, don't throw chairs at each other or them or anything, and I guess I don't have to. You sat very attentively, that's great. But I want to thank them for just putting themselves in the arena, because I know it's not easy today, right? With all the stuff that goes on, and everybody's thinking that they have all the answers, but very few of us sit up here and try to lay out a vision and support those answers. So thank you guys for being here. Hope you feel welcome. We might applaud after each question, but not during them, okay? Or hoot and holler. So the next question gets right to some of the things you've already mentioned. It's about a survey that was done. So in June of 2023, the city released results from the Community Engagement and Public Opinion Survey. Residents were asked if downtown was going in the right direction or on the wrong track. 25% indicated downtown was going in the right direction, while 75% indicated downtown was on the wrong track. Why do you believe 3/4 of the respondents felt downtown was on the wrong track? And of those who felt downtown was on the right track, why do you believe they felt it maybe was on the right track? So answering both sides of that from your perspective. David, you're first this time.
Well, as the non-incumbent, as the change candidate, I suppose I could give some fire and brimstone, but I'd like to throw Dontae a bone, because he's been a wonderful opponent, and I think he's a wonderful candidate. However, I'm not sure that the 75% that responded that way are all Olympia residents. I'm willing to concede that maybe there's all kinds of folks who live outside of the city boundaries and can't vote for council or mayor seats. I hear that all the time. But those people fund and basically keep our downtown alive. Like Dontae said, it is the historic downtown for all of Thurston County. If you say I'm going downtown, nothing against my friends in Tumwater and Lacey, but you're not talking about what they're trying to do to make a downtown. You're talking about one place and only one place. And so even if 75% of Thurston County residents say downtown is on the wrong track, that's even worse than if the survey wasn't just Olympia residents. And so to me, people say it's a great downtown because it's got interesting, unique, not as many, I should say, franchise strip mall, unique things that you can only find in a downtown. If you're a numbers cruncher, your downtown should produce more money per square foot than any other part of your city. And I don't think that's the case, and hasn't been the case in Olympia for a long time. There's incredible festivals and arts and food, and I mean, you know this, you live this, you provide this to us. On the other hand, I was on my soapbox and I was doing my fire and brimstone thing the other day, and you know, I was talking to a friend who's lived here for a long time, and his mom is a senior citizen, and I said, you know, we have to get people really to care, and you know, your mom is probably outraged about what she's seen. She's lived here so long. And you know what he said? He said, nah, she gave up on downtown Olympia 10, 20 years ago. She's long past being pissed off or frustrated or enraged. That to me is the big loss that you see in surveys like that. It's not the people who frequented downtown and maybe don't go down at night as much or so forth. It's the people who wrote it off 10 years ago, 20 years ago, who could be making our downtown robust, more diverse, and providing jobs and economic vitality and really resiliency in a way that I kind of offhand talk about the cool kids, the people who say, downtown is great, I feel really comfortable downtown. Well, good for you, but you know, it wasn't too long ago when our executive director of our food bank said, hey, we have food rotting on the shelves because there's so many people who won't come and simply pick up food in our food bank downtown. When that guy is coming out to say that, you can pretty much bet that things have gone off the rails. Thank you.
Dontae, survey question?
Sure. Well, I think that there are multiple reasons for this. I don't think there's any one answer. Mainly starting with the fact that the problems that we face today around the lack of housing, around the increasing amount of homelessness that we're seeing, the increasing of substance abuse, and those who are suffering from mental illness are clearly getting much larger and much bigger. And we have a small city government that is trying to take on all of these massive issues that go beyond our city limits. And frankly, as we try to make progress on that, I think that many folks in our community just are frustrated, and they see the presence of all of these issues in our downtown, and that means that they don't see that change. And frankly, one of the other issues that was highlighted in this survey is the city's communication. And so obviously we have work to do in terms of improving our external communications and what we are doing, the successes that we're having, and telling those stories. So that folks do, in fact, have a different view or vision of our downtown. The other thing is that I think that, you know, we are the state capital, and our downtown often has to experience what goes on the Capitol campus, and sometimes that comes into the streets of our downtown. It also, I'll just give you an example of, you know, 2020. When you look at the murder of George Floyd, which is an incident that was not something that happened here in the city of Olympia. However, our community was impacted by that because our city and our downtown is the seat of our state government. And so that means that we experience a lot of things, a lot of disorder and things of that nature. That is frankly a symptom of the political climate that we're in today. And so that automatically means that, you know, how we see our downtown, how we feel about downtown changes. And frankly, it affects how the people who live here, how we experience it and how we feel about it. And so I would say that there are a number of things that we need to do to work towards changing that feeling. And for those who do see the positive aspects of downtown changing, it's because they can see that there have been improvements, things like moving our mitigation site out of downtown, for example.
Thank you both. Gotta keep them interested up here so they don't fall asleep on us, right? All right, so the next round of questions are rapid fire ones. You have 30 seconds. That means Todd's gonna just hold up the sign when you're out of time and you'll have to stop talking. We'll start with Dontae. 30 seconds, rapid fire. Top 3 things to do downtown.
Top 3 things, okay. Make it clean and beautiful. improve people's experiences by bringing different kinds of businesses here. And then third, I would say addressing our homelessness crisis and getting people off of our streets and into safe housing.
Time out.
Those three.
No? What happened? It's good? He's good? All right, thanks. David, top 3 things to do downtown.
Top 3 things to do downtown: expand and support business incubation in some of the vacant storefronts, downtown and a citywide day labor program for folks who are on the street, not just folks who are in tiny homes, but actually a day labor, get work today, get paid today, and a panhandling reduction program.
Now, I thought when I asked that question, we were going to hear like, oh, I want to go down to the bar in the corner, or I'd like to go eat over at Silas Place, but that was okay. These guys are serious. That's awesome. So,
Policy focused.
yeah, you are policy focused. I like this. All right, so be careful with this one. So we have so many colorful personalities downtown. Some of them are in the room tonight, and they help make our downtown what it is. Who's one of your favorites and why? And David, you'll start.
Who is one of my favorites and why? I'm gonna, well, it's a popular thing for some folks to say downtown is funky. And I like funky, I don't like out of control. So on the side of funky, to me, one of the most interesting folks who we recently lost was Joe Illing, a guy who I years ago worked on a documentary about Olympia and Thurston County and its background and kind of history. And here's this guy who's a commercial real estate guy, and okay, nothing against commercial real estate guys. And come to get to know him and hear his thoughts, he's a Renaissance man. And that to me was just perfect Olympia, a businessman, Renaissance man, poet, artist extraordinaire.
Dontae?
Yeah, this question is actually very simple for me. Anna Schlecht. She is somebody that just gets out there and paints her love for this town all over. It's very obvious. It's certainly what, when I moved to Olympia, it's certainly how I knew I was welcomed here by all the different murals that told me that I was welcomed here. And she's somebody that can organize and get other people to join her in the efforts of taking care of our downtown.
Thank you very much. Now, what? There's one more 30-second one. One more. Give us a memory of downtown and that makes you smile. Dontae, memory of downtown that makes you smile.
Oh, there are lots. I miss Procession of the Species. I miss our Pride Parade. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the return of those. I also enjoy all of the festivals that ODA is very much responsible for putting on, things like Love Oli Summerfest. But I would have to say my fondest memories are that of my little girl just 6 years ago, you know, just playing in the streets of our downtown during Arts Walk. And those are absolutely my favorite memories.
David, a memory that makes you smile downtown.
Probably in a past life when I worked in documentary film, we did a project on Elvis impersonators and their quest for the crown. They go down to Memphis every August, a world championship contest run by Elvis's veterinarian. And for 17 years, I think we ran a festival at Capitol Theater, and hopefully it's gonna come back, where we would fly in the world champion Elvis impersonator all the way from Portland, not Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine. He was the first African-American man ever to win the Elvis Impersonator World Championships. And if you think about that for a minute, if we were in a Jackie Wilson impersonator contest, I don't know what chance I would have, but for a guy to win the world championship and come all the way out here to watch the movie and indulge in all things Elvis, including peanut butter and banana sandwiches, that was a fun tradition that I hope to bring back sometime soon.
Thank you much. Give him a round of applause. Okay. We're back to the real serious questions, although they took those pretty serious. It's pretty cool. This one's about partnerships, believe it or not. Over the last few years, the City of Olympia and the Downtown Alliance have really begun building a robust partnership. And that happened really, I think, during COVID and that time where we realized, whoa, we can do things together. What measures would you take as council member or mayor to grow that partnership with the Alliance and also with other downtown business owners? And David, you start this one.
I think the biggest partnership opportunity that we could embark on has to do with our street community and how we address that rather than talking about carrots and sticks. If we look at some of the counties that have had embedded social workers where police and social workers work together to slowly move away from encampments to getting people into shelter or transitional or permanent supportive housing, some of the places up north in Snohomish and Skagit County, for instance, they have had the private sector offer up locations for people waiting to get into treatment or people waiting to get their Section 8 certificate, because it takes a long time and millions of dollars to make housing. But when you have businesses and private folks stepping up saying, I like the progress I see, I like the fact that you're looking out for everyone, not just the squeaky wheels and the vocal minority. I want to offer up the half of this duplex that's not being remodeled for the 4 weeks that these folks are waiting before they go off to inpatient treatment. Things like that, those are the kind of partnerships. When folks see progress, it's amazing the generosity and stepping forward that the private sector will do. And I think that's an enterprise that we really need to expand upon.
Thank you, Dave. Dontae?
Yes, actually this question has me thinking a lot about the ballot initiative that we all passed as a community, Inspire Olympia. And I think that is going to have a lot of partnerships that are going to be at our fingertips, really, in order to help make this place thrive even more. So several nonprofit organizations that are in the business of the arts and the sciences and heritage in our community that are going to be able to help us get towards that vision that we all want, which is a community that is thriving in all of those categories. And that's what we have to offer as a community is arts, history, and heritage. That is Olympia. And so all of the different organizations that are going to be applying for funding through that program are who I see as important partners. Frankly, I also think the Squaxin Island tribe is going to be very pivotal in this regard as well. We talk about a government-to-government relationship and creating more of a place that is very evident of the original inhabitants of this land and whose original community this was and it continues to be. And any economic visions that they may have for this community, we would be very interested in hearing from them and how we can be partners to bring about not only things that are going to benefit the city of Olympia economically, but their tribe as well. And so those are the folks that I see as future partners, current partners and future partners, and really bringing about the vision that we all want to see, which is a lot more traffic of the good kind in our downtown.
Thank you very much. You want to pause on that? Right. So I didn't mention this. They didn't know the questions before tonight. So every time I ask one of these questions, it is a surprise, and they're going to take it in whatever direction is appropriate. So on that survey that we were talking about, it said 75% said the wrong direction, 25% said the right direction. It was also asked, what are the top 3 priorities for city government? And these are the 3 priorities that were listed by those participants. Housing and homeless services, number 1. Number 2, police services. And number 3, economic development. We're going to take those one at a time. They have 2 minutes to respond to each of these questions I'm going to ask them, and we'll go right down the line in those. So the first one, David gets the first shot at, and we're going to take time to evaluate homeless services, and then what you might do or suggest to really address that issue, the top priority, okay? So the first one is homeless services, and David, you have 2 minutes and tell us about how you evaluate that and what you might do to address it.
1997, I was at the ribbon cutting and cake serving of the Fleetwood building across from Sylvester Park. It was going to end homelessness in Olympia. 43 units, $95 a month, maximum cap of your percentage of your rent burden income. It made a dent. But without other supportive services and without some enforcement, that dent was gone almost instantly. Fast forward year after year after year, you can talk about Drexel House, you can talk about Unity Commons, you can talk about Quixote Village, which came out of Camp Quixote, you can talk about Billy Frank Jr. apartments, and the list goes on. I'm not against affordable housing by any means. We have been absolutely derelict in increasing our supply of affordable housing and permanent supportive housing. However, when you dig sand at the beach and it's wet, all of your work you just did to dig a hole immediately fills back in. And what I would see as an outreach worker, the single outreach worker for Thurston and Mason counties, is places that didn't do some kind of enforcement to discourage off-the-grid, treatment-resistant street population had two huge problems. People came and stayed, number one, and number two, people who were more at risk, whether they were coming out of substance abuse treatment or maybe they were aging out of foster care and they might otherwise go and get a GED or go into Job Corps or go into the military or keep getting services from CYS for that matter. They're now at the hands of an encrusted, emboldened, massive street community that if we would strategically, slowly but surely and compassionately break down and provide shelter and not enable off-the-grid living where so many bad things happen, we could actually start getting a handle on this like we did several decades ago. We've been kind of off track for about 10 years, really off track for 6 years, and to me, that's how we start keeping those vacancies and keeping those places that we clean up, not just playing whack-a-mole.
Thanks. We have 2 minutes. Dontae, 2 minutes, evaluate homeless housing services and what you would do.
Sure. The first thing I want to say in response to this question is the homelessness that we see in our community today would be far worse if the city of Olympia was not taking action specifically since 2018. And in that time, we have sheltered hundreds of people because we have seen this as a priority. Even though traditionally in years past, local government has not been the primary government at the front of this issue. With that being said, I think that clearly what we're doing is working. And so we need to continue doing that. We need to amend our multifamily tax exemption MFTE program as a way to help incentivize more development of affordable housing, specifically in our downtown. We also need to do things like continue forming interlocal agreements with the state and with partners like the Low Income Housing Institute that are going to help us develop and operate sites of permanent supportive housing and tiny home villages. We also need to continue doing the work of where we can advocating at the state capitol for the state to continue to invest in affordable housing and providing funding for local governments to do what essentially we've become masters at, which is shelter and provide housing for folks that are on our streets. The state government knows this, which is why it has invested in it and has provided millions of dollars to allocate towards cities to handle the situation.
Thank you. Survey respondents said item 2 is police services. Dontae, how would you evaluate current police services and what changes or differences, improvements might you suggest?
Sure. So with policing, you know, from the survey that you mentioned earlier, it was also mentioned that folks feel that there's actually an increased attitude of positivity towards our police department. The Olympia Police do great work. I do think that we need to really make sure that we're continuing to provide those resources that are going to be providing transparency to our community. So for example, having a civilian oversight board at the city is another way of ensuring that there is transparency in how our community is being policed. And making sure that those of us who are just regular community members are inside the walls of City Hall, and we have an understanding of how our police department is operating. I also see there being more opportunity to expand our non-law enforcement interventions, which at this moment is under our police services or our police department. So things like expanding our crisis response unit where we can, even though we just did that, there continues to be a need. And so I personally see further expansions down the line, not only for our crisis response unit, but possibly even for our downtown ambassadors programs, our familiar faces programs, and things of that nature. And so really, I would like to see an all-around comprehensive look at our department, which includes an upcoming staffing study that will tell us our current levels of staffing within our department and whether or not we need to expand even further to reach all of the ends of our city to provide adequate police services.
Dontae, thank you very much. David, police services, evaluation, and kind of vision for where it goes.
I think police are heroes. I think they run into burning buildings when you and I run out of them. I think by and large, they are not the problem. I think to a lot of social problems, they are not the solution. And asking them to be jacks of all trades is an unwinnable bargain. However, there are some things that we do know. We do know that providing more training to our police reduces violent encounters. We know that providing more defensive tactics, not just de-escalation, reduces police injuries and time off and costs for L&I, and it also reduces deadly force incidents. So rather than making the police the problem and we need to clamp down and we need to hold those police accountable, sure, but we also need to acknowledge that, you know, when it's 2 a.m. and somebody's breaking in your back door, there's one person and only one person I want coming in that situation. Our crisis response unit and our efforts, like our familiar faces, to be intervening on more social problems, substance abuse and mental illness, typically, I think are fantastic developments. But we also kind of dance around a reality that I think needs to be said, and that is, you don't see most homelessness. The overwhelming majority of homelessness is short, singular, and sheltered. It used to be roughly about 75%. Olympia's mismanagement of those issues has so distorted that statistic that now I don't know what it is. But the fact that what we see on our streets, what people complain about in those surveys, are not homeless people. That's not demonizing the street population. It's the people who refuse services, and we allow it to happen year after year after year. We allow encampment. We're taking credit for cleaning up encampments and throwing boulders everywhere. At the same moment, we're allowing a brand new encampment to spawn and grow out of control where Plum Street meets Henderson. So I don't think that we can make the police the problem. We need to take advantage of our quality of life in Olympia and draw more police from all over the country who would love to live in Olympia and be a police officer here if we support our police.
Thank you, David. The third priority from the survey was economic development. David, your evaluation and vision.
Everybody is for economic development. Everybody is for sustainability. Everybody is for affordable housing. Hooray. Everybody is for duckies and bunnies too. However, what does that really mean? What does that mean brass tacks-wise? Economic development means getting, hopefully, living wage jobs to stay in Olympia, and even better, to come to Olympia, whether that's through new generation or relocation. I can't think of, for instance, any of the tech leakage that has come out of some of the large tech sectors to our north and south that has come to Olympia. We've had a large one leave Olympia, and I wonder why that is. Is that because our economic development folks at the City of Olympia aren't good? No. great things. However, I think if you make Olympia clean, safe, and welcoming, you have a lot better chance for new businesses to survive and thrive. You have a lot better chance to draw new businesses into the area because of the quality of life that we can provide that some bigger and more expensive cost of living simply cannot compete with. But I don't think we can do that by simply putting lipstick on a pig and saying, hey, we have some real problems that we need to address in order to make our city not what it has been in the past, not yearning for bygone days, but what it should be. If we're going to be the only historic downtown for our entire county, shouldn't it be safe and welcoming for children, for senior citizens? Should only big, fat, scary-looking bald guys like me be the only person who feels safe walking our streets at midnight? No. Or somebody with a gun or a law enforcement officer? No. A single woman, a senior citizen, somebody taking their child to Hands-On Museum should absolutely feel safe and be safe, so they do want to relocate here, and they hear good things about our downtown, they hear good things about our city from the people who live here.
Thank you, David. Dontae?
Yes, so the city has worked on our economic resiliency and opportunity plan known as Olympia Strong, which I very much support. It is a very, very ambitious and robust vision for our community. And it touches all facets of what it means to be a community member and to live in the city. And so that includes things all the way down to the food that we are eating and access to it. So when we talk about economic development, we're talking about a variety of topics and what it means to have a quality of life here in our city. So things like advancing tourism and drawing people in to keep our local economy stimulated. Things like bringing more jobs and educational opportunities to the city of Olympia as well. Things that are going to bring a diversity of businesses, that are going to bring all of that good traffic that I mentioned earlier, that keep people coming back, whether they live here or they are from other parts of the state. You know, we really want to see a comprehensive review of our overall economic experience as we have it now, and then also what that could be going forward. And that includes things like bringing more personal economic stability to community members as well. So we are experiencing, as a community as a whole, I think we're experiencing some very positive aspects of our community. There are many other communities that simply have not recovered from the pandemic. Thankfully, by and large, we're doing relatively well in that regard, and Olympia Strong will just give us an even stronger boost from here on out.
Gentlemen, thanks for addressing those priorities for us. Round of applause on that. Well, they're not quite done yet, but I know these seats are hard. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but I got to thank them just for sitting on those stools.
I can really suck it in that one.
Not much more. They have closing remarks. Each going to have 3 minutes to do the close and really tell us, you know, is there anything else we didn't uncover? Anything in your ideas and policies and vision that we should have asked and we didn't? And also maybe why vote for you? What's the difference? Any difference that you might highlight and leave us with? So to start here, David gets the first.
I'd like to tell you a couple of things that sort of occurred to me. If you want to know my policies and playing some platforms and the Recover Olympia and the South Sound Plan, go to rossforolympia.com or call me. I'll meet you for coffee. I'll defend all of my positions and opinions. My mom passed away about 8 months ago, and we were cleaning out a massively overburdened house, and I found an article from the Olympian from July 4th, 1975 or 1976. And it was, the gazebo is done, bring on the square dancing, was the headline. It was from the Sunday Olympian, which they called it on Sundays back then. And almost the whole city turned out to Sylvester Park to celebrate the opening of the gazebo. And my mom had saved it because my dad, along with a whole bunch of other businesses and contractors and engineers and stuff, donated this and that. You know, I think my dad swung a few hammers, but I'm not tooting his horn or mine. I'm saying that because what I want to see, why I'm running, is I want to see that happen again when we have our Christmas festivals, when we have our Love Oldie Summerfest. I don't want to see a select few that are really comfortable with downtown come down. I want to see the whole city fill up Sylvester Park. I want ODA to absolutely have to fill Music in the Park once again because there are so many people coming down to patronize it. That's not unrealistic. It's going to take some work and it's going to take a little bit of a change. It's sort of like steering a ferry, right? It takes a while, but you really have to change direction. And the other story I'm going to tell you is about changing direction. And my kid and I volunteered to be salmon stewards this year to go talk about the salmon, you know, spawning at Fifth Avenue. And now you should go see them. They're still at Brewery Park at Tumwater Falls. And I wanted my child to really know the whole story, and it's a great little education to become a salmon steward. But what they teach is that, you know, we for years put up dams all over the rivers for hydroelectric power mostly, sometimes for water, but it was a great way to get power. Didn't burn anything, didn't pollute, didn't have any nuclear waste. It was fantastic. And we even accounted for affecting the salmon by putting in fish ladders. We nailed it, except we didn't. We later found out that, gosh, despite our best intentions, we were going down the wrong path. It decimated, it had huge effects on not just salmon, but everything up the food chain, including orcas, that depend on that. So what did we do? We pumped our brakes. It took a lot of butting heads and arguing, but we pumped our brakes and we started tearing out dams that were affecting salmon. We said, you know what? We thought we were the best and the brightest. We thought we were going down the right path, but we were wrong. We're not too proud to say the emperor has no clothes and we are wrong. We need to change course. And that's what we did with dams and the salmon runs and trying to save and revitalize that. To me, that's the best analogy I've come across of what we need to do with handling downtown Olympia's problems, is admit that we've gone down the wrong path, not be too proud to say, you know what, we need to change direction, not 4 more years of the same.
Thank you, Derek. Dontae?
Yes. Very simply, if you care about the issues of affordable housing, community health and public safety, and economic opportunity, then I'm your candidate. I have a very clear vision on all of those issues. It is consistent with the City of Olympia's vision, which is very important as our next city's leader, as its mayor. While I may not agree on every single issue with all of our members of the City Council, I do have a very strong background in working across those differences and essentially getting to something that we all can support in one way or another that is going to benefit our community. And that's the kind of leader our city deserves. And frankly, you know, I will just say that, you know, 4 years ago, the survey, the community-wide survey that was put out, it said that 87% of residents were unhappy. It now says 70. So we are improving. And again, all of these issues are massive. They go beyond the City of Olympia's limits. They go beyond the borders of Washington State. So many of these issues require the intervention from so many different key players, and the City of Olympia has taken on a huge piece of that, not in lieu of providing the basic services that we are responsible for providing as a city, but in addition to. And we have stepped up to that challenge and will continue to do that. You know, I really do think that all of the issues that we discussed here this evening, we've seen improvement in one regard or another. And so I just encourage our community to really reach out to me, reach out to those who are doing the work to ask what has been done if you're not sure, because I promise you there are answers. And it's just simply going to take time to address so many of these issues that we are frustrated with, but we are making progress. For example, it was just mentioned a few moments ago about the boulders that are on our state's rights-of-way in our community. And while that may not be the best thing for us to have, it is a strategy that will be responsible in a way that is ensuring that the taxpayer dollars, that we will not see a return of encampments on these spaces that have been cleared right away. And we are doing our due diligence to exercise our One Community Plan and our Housing Action Plan, which very clearly states that we are supposed to go around and ensure that no new encampments come up around our city. And we are doing just that, and we will intervene whenever we can. And so we are continuing to hit one after the other, and we're not just moving people out, we are housing them. And so if you want a candidate that supports that work, I encourage you to visit my website, friendsofdontapayne.com. Thank you.
David, thanks for putting yourself out there. Thank you. Dontae, thanks for putting yourself out there. Entering the discussion. I didn't have to play Jerry Springer tonight. Thank goodness. We didn't throw any chairs or anything. But, it's hard sometimes to talk civilly nowadays, right? It's really a challenge. And so I appreciate the class that you guys have in running the campaign. And I appreciate the class you all had sitting there listening and trying to understand, what are these guys really thinking about? Now, we have other candidates. Actually, why don't you join the crowds out here? Because I'm going to bring another candidate up. Dani, come on up. Dani Madrone's running unopposed. But she wanted to say a few words like any good politician would tonight. No, we invited her to do that. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, as long as, here, sit right there.
Do you want me to, would you like me to throw this chair?
You could throw that at me. It's hard though. So Dani running unopposed though, she's going to have, actually it's only backup. So if the
okay.
fails, if it does.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll sit on the hard chair.
So Dani's going to have 5 minutes. And Dani, talk about, maybe what you heard a little bit tonight, your vision, and things that people need to know about you, even though we'll probably mark that box because it's the only candidate there. And why shouldn't we write somebody else?
There's the write-in option.
I
gotta show up.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's very bright up here, so props to the two of you for sitting here with these lights in your eyes. So my name's Dani Madrone. This is the last year of my first term on the council, and I'm running for re-election. And it's really nice to be unopposed. I can just sit here and say what I want rather than responding to questions. But Todd did give me a few prompts that I would like to respond to. The first one being why I love downtown. And so I live on the west side of town, and one of my favorite things to do is walk downtown. That in itself is an experience for me. Going across the Friendship Bridge, the 4th Avenue Bridge, with the mountains on either side, and Puget Sound right there, and coming down and seeing, the salmon on views on 5th, the Olympia mural, the big wave mural. It's just such a nice welcoming into the downtown space. And downtown just shows a really strong pulse of our culture. I love all of the events that we have going on, outdoors in the summers, indoors in the winters. I love the local food scene. I love the many different ways that we can experience art downtown. I love browsing through shops downtown, and I swear every time I walk down a block I haven't been down for a while, there's a new store there. There's a lot of new things going on. I think that the statistic that was shared, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but you can correct me if I do, but during the pandemic, like for every business that closed down, didn't like two new businesses open, something like that? Yeah. So we are doing something right downtown. That being said, also, downtown is also what it is because of the people that make up our downtown. If I ever want to go and see a friendly face, I just go to downtown Olympia. And the people downtown really, really care. Sometimes, as I say in Parks and Rec, sometimes they care very loudly, but that's just because they're fighting for what they love. And I really appreciate that. When it comes to the future of downtown, we have the downtown strategy for the city, and I'm very committed to implementing that. I see a lot more housing downtown. Dontae spoke to this a bit, but housing for people of all affordability levels. I think more housing downtown is good for our local economy. It's good for our climate. It's good for keeping us from sprawling as a city onto rural lands. It gets more people actively moving around. So I'm excited about that. I also think a lot about sea level rise. I chair the Sea Level Rise Collaborative, which is an interlocal agreement between the city, the port, and LOT to figure out where are we going to be in 100 years and how are we going to protect our downtown from rising sea levels. And stay tuned for some hopefully exciting news on that front with some grants that have been submitted. But there's a lot, we've got a lot of work to do there. But for the future of downtown, I'm a mother of a teenager, and I would just love to see more fun things for young people to do in the future. Mad props to Legends Arcade. I am so grateful for that space because it gives my kiddo something to do. Sometimes I get to come along with them. Not always though. Sometimes it's just something for them to do, but I'd love to see us have more opportunities for young people that are fun and engaging downtown. And I also think we need to keep pace with the needs of the Hands-On Children's Museum. They are growing as an organization, and so there's a lot for us to do there. How far into this 5 minutes am I? Have you been timing me? Couple minutes left? All right. So the recent public survey, I don't want to spend any time thinking about who responded and who didn't and all that. But I think one thing that's clear to me from the survey is that, a lot of people have had negative experiences in downtown Olympia, myself included. And that's what we hold on to a lot of the times. It can take a while to turn around from that. And I wouldn't want to dismiss anybody's experience or explain it away. But I will say that I do think we are turning a corner downtown. I think it'll be a while to convince everybody of that, and I think it might be a while before we see the full results. But I do think we're turning a corner, and part of that has to do with the strong partnerships that we have built in the past few years. And so when it comes to partnerships, I am just really excited about the work that we've done with the Olympia Downtown Alliance. I had the opportunity to go to the International Downtown Alliance conference with Todd and Desiree and a couple of city staff, and it was really great to see their gears turning. They're really excited for innovation, for figuring out how we can do things differently, get more people downtown, more businesses, more housing, all of the above. And I'm particularly excited about the Downtown Improvement District. That was unanimously supported by the City Council recently, and I think a lot of that has to do with the hard work of Todd and others at the ODA to build the relationships with the city. I think it's very strong, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what we do together. So, how's that?
Thank you. Thanks for putting yourself out there, even though you've got a cushy election to go through. Right? Well, watch out for Mickey Mouse. Well, thank you all for coming. And as I was looking out here, I was just thinking, I made a bet downtown when the bets weren't really good. And people said, Todd, what are you doing that for? Many of you made those bets years ago or during the same time frame. I was just looking out and the people that are out here tonight. So thank you for doing that. It has changed things in the last 3 or 4 years. And as we know, we've got more work to do. And that's why we're here today, to listen to what that vision is, what that work might be. Thanks for coming out. I mean, you could be watching the Seahawks, The Voice, just, news shows. I don't know what you watch at home, or just sit there and stare out the window at the rain, because we all needed that. We just really appreciate you all being here and engaged in the community. Well, enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks for coming.